Hi, we're here with Duncan Southgate, Senior Director, Global Creative, the Insights Division at Kantar. How are you doing, Duncan?
Good. Thanks very much, Keith. Yeah, pleased to be here.
Well, let's dive into the most important question. Why is attention important when it comes to advertising, and why are we talking about it so much in 2023?
I guess we should say it's always been important, right? It's not suddenly become important, but the measurement of it has maybe become more important. I think that's how I would summarize it. Why is that? I guess it's because we've always known that you needed attention before you could start to achieve any outcomes for advertising. That's always been true, but our ability to measure that has never been so good as it is today. And so philosophically, we definitely at Kantar buy into the idea that attention is a very important stepping stone on the path to effectiveness. I guess we're mainly talking about visual attention here, and it's mostly true that you can't have really any significant impact without some visual attention for video advertising in particular. And we've got very clear evidence that the more visual attention you get, the better your chances of building a brand and driving sales.
Talk a little bit about Kantar's history with attention and how it's changed and how you've approached it over time.
So I think it is quite a long track record. I guess if you track it all the way back to when Millward Brown and now Kantar were running brand tracking studies, we always knew that attention was really important, right? We were always measuring things like ad recall, which were the outcome of attention in brand trackers. We knew that some attention had happened before we got to that outcome. But actually explicitly measuring human attention, we've been doing that now for, I guess, about a decade using facial coding, just over a decade. And we're still big fans of the facial coding approach for measuring human visual attention. We believe that's the best way to get to that observed data at scale around the world. And so over the last decade or so, we've gathered attention data for well over 50,000 ads now across TV and digital contexts, mostly video data, video ads. And for most of that data, we've got the combination of that observed human attention with attitudinal insights and outcomes as well. And we've also got a stack load of machine-based playback data. So the ad, how long was the ad being shown, as well as how many seconds were people looking at it. And we've got that for all kinds of different digital contexts. So we've got a large data set that we've learned quite a lot from. But definitely that's hotted up massively in the last 2 or 3 years. The attention debate has become much more nuanced. And in the last couple of years, we spent a lot of time validating and exploring the relationships between that attention data and outcomes. We've spent a lot of time trying to better understand the underlying science of attention. We published a paper on that at ICON. And we've been looking for ways to optimize our attention measurement approaches because we've been measuring it for a long time, but we're now in a position where we're able to measure it better than we've ever measured it before.
That's a great history. What are some of the things that you're really mindful of, that Kantar's mindful, trends in attention metrics to watch? Things like creative attention and media attention. Should they be viewed in coordination? Should be viewed separately? Things like currencies. What are you really looking at?
I think there's going to be a lot more granular understanding about what drives attention moving forward as data sets get more sophisticated, and particularly in the digital space, more understanding of how attention works in all kinds of different contexts. So I think our focus is less on media pure play attention, more on creative attention in isolation, and also creative and media intersection. So that's where we're focus our efforts. The debate about whether attention will or won't become a media planning currency is not something we're so heavily involved in. But what I do care about, and I'm really interested in, is how the growing usage of attention in media planning is going to link back to questions about how much creative can or can't play a role in increasing that amount of intention. So the elasticity of a particular media format may sort of the typical range of attention, maybe 3 to 5 seconds for one format. And I'm most interested in the question of, how can you make sure that your ad is the one getting the 5 seconds of attention rather than the 3, or the 15 rather than the 10. So that's where I think we'll be focusing our efforts. And I expect the sophistication of client questions to really ramp up. So right now we've done a lot to just justify that attention matters. But now the questions will become more about how much attention do we need for our brand in this context for this objective, and then which creative approaches help us to capture and retain enough attention to get above that threshold. So I think it will become more granular, more campaign and client and brand specific, I think we're really only at the start of a journey of understanding everything we need to about attention.
Thank you. So, talk a little bit about Kantar's new partnership with Realeayes, why it's important, and what anyone should know about it.
Yeah. So also, again, I think the kinds of attention metrics that we care about most at Kantar are observed human attention measures. We don't believe it's for an ad level something you can really just ask about. We've seen some people just asking, is it, would you pay attention to this ad or not? We don't believe that's the right way to do it. We believe you need to observe attention to get an accurate measure. You can predict it as well in all kinds of other ways, and that's definitely also something that we think is important and useful for measurement of attention at scale. But what we like about the Realeyes technology is that it allows us to get really good human measurement around the world. And the product we've chosen to put it into is our Context Lab product. So just to take a moment to explain about Context Lab. Context Lab is a combination of, this is intersection of creative and media. It has media metrics because we put ads into a specific context, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And we look at the shift, the delta in brand lift between control and exposed groups. So we've got an outcome, even though it's a lab test, specific to a medium. So that's the first piece. We've also got lots of creative diagnostics in those studies. We, as well as seeing whether the ad is working in that context, we ask questions about, was it likable, enjoyable, relevant, well-branded, so we know why it's working. And in that product, we've always, because it's been put into a context, we've been measuring the playback, but we've only known what was playing on the machine. We didn't know really whether people were looking, engaging, paying attention, or whether they were just drifting off, letting the ad run while waiting for our survey to start. So that's where Realeyes have stepped in, and we're now adding in Realeyes attention measurement into this Context Lab part. So it's the missing piece in the puzzle that allows us to go from playback through to attention, through to the ad having some kind of effect, and then us seeing whether it drove a brand lift outcome or not. So I really think we've now got the best of both worlds, creative and media, attention and attitudes, observed and expressed, all in one place. So it's a really cool package. We've got existing norms, databases. We can do these studies all around the world at scale, and I'm very excited about ramping up the partnership.
Great, thanks. So what is your view of, or Kantar's view of, the role of AI in predictions when it comes to measuring attention?
Yeah, I think it plays a role. I mean, our overall view on measurement for creative is that we definitely expect the future to be hybrid. We continue to invest in survey-based methods, but also AI predictive techniques. And when it comes to attention in particular, we already have the ability within our AI pretests to predict playback. So we have that, and we can predict what we would, I guess, consider to be an active attention measure. We can't yet predict the passive attention measure, which I think is the one thing that we may look at doing into the future. But I think overall, what we need to do first is get as much attention measurement in as many contexts as we can using observed data. I still think that's for creative purposes, that's the richest, most helpful diagnostic for most clients at this stage. But certainly we're already using predictive AI eye tracking to help with attention measurement of what people are most likely to be looking at within elements of an ad in combination with these other measures. So I expect we'll be using AI more and more to help us measure attention, but I guess my primary focus at the moment is extending our observed attention data set, particularly so we can understand digital context better.
Great. And one final question, just obviously you've talked about Kantar's long recent history with attention. What's your advice for anyone or organization that is starting relatively new and embracing attention, whether it's an advertiser or an agency, to get up to speed?
I don't think it needs to be too complicated. I mean, I think the thing we're trying to do at Kantar is make it easy to get to attention data. It's now baked into our existing products. So you don't have to set up a whole different attention measurement agenda. Products that need attention data in them should have that coming along as standard. So that's where I would start. Again, we do have a very clear view on this, that it's important to integrate attention measurement with other outcomes, because attention is great. The more attention is generally a good thing, but if you have 10 seconds of attention but you forget to mention the brand, well, the ad will still be rubbish. So you can't forget all the other good things that about understanding the things like branding, what message people were taking out. Attention is a very, very helpful complement to those other metrics, but you need the integrated package to fully understand whether and how an ad is going to work.
Duncan, thank you so much for all of your insightful answers.
No, thank you very much, Keith. Pleasure.